33 on January 7th, 2021. I would call this January meeting of the Flint Historic District Commission to order. First item on the agenda would be the roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Davis?
Here.
Commissioner Hurley?
Here.
Commissioner Neiswender? He's absent. Commissioner Shapani?
Here.
Commissioner Wright?
Here.
And Madam Chair?
Here.
Thank you. And now I'm going to make the announcement for the Open Meetings Act amendment. All boards and commissions must adhere to all laws established under the Michigan compiled laws and in accordance with the revisions of the Open Meetings Act adopted in Senate Bill 1108 as passed on October 13th, 2020 and signed into law on October 16th, 2020. A public announcement shall be made by each member who is attending the meeting remotely that he or she is attending the meeting remotely, and except for those in military service, stating his or her physical location. So just a reminder, I'll go back through the roll call, and if you could all please state the county or city and the state from where you are calling. Commissioner Davis?
Commissioner remotely from Flint, Michigan, Genesee County.
Commissioner Hurley?
Flint, Michigan.
Thank you. Commissioner Shapani?
Commissioner Scapani, Flint, Michigan.
Thank you. And Commissioner Wright?
Flint, Michigan, Genesee County.
Thank you. And Madam Chair?
Flint, Michigan, Genesee County, appearing remotely.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, it's back to you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is additions or changes to the agenda.
Change to the agenda, Heather.
Yes,
Need to let's talk about the Saginaw Street bricks, which is that
on old business.
old business? If we could put that first.
Perfect, okay. So how about if we move it to right before the certificates of appropriateness, right after hearing from the public?
That was good.
Okay. And that would just be the Saginaw Street bricks topic. We'll leave everything else down in old business. Okay. Is there a motion with the amendment to adopt the agenda?
I make a motion to amend the agenda.
Is there support?
Or
Okay, we have a motion with support. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the agenda as amended?
aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay. And motion passes. Agenda is adopted. Next item on the agenda is the minutes of the previous meeting and disposal. I think everyone should have a copy from November. We did not have a December meeting, I believe, so November would be the last one.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Any support?
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion with support. Any discussion? Hearing none, if we could Have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Scapani,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
and Madam Chair.
Yes. Okay. Minutes are approved and disposed of. Next item on the agenda is hearing from the public. This is the opportunity where if anyone is present and would like to address the commission regarding an item that is not on the agenda already, this would be your time to speak. If you want to speak about one of the addresses or one of the topics that's already listed on the agenda, just wait until that item is called until we get to that point on the agenda. But if anyone has anything to say not regarding an agenda item? And hearing nothing, we will move on to the next agenda item, which is old business Saginaw Street bricks. Is anyone here to help us learn about that project and what's going on?
Kevin?
Kevin, can you unmute?
Yes. Good evening. My name is Kevin Cook. I'm a civil engineer with Wade Trim. I'm the project manager for the road reconstruction of Saginaw Street. I'm going to share my screen. Is that working?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The project is Saginaw Street from Court Street north through the downtown corridor, just south of the river, the entire brick portion of Saginaw Street. The roadway currently is 5 lanes of brick pavers. Our proposal is, are you seeing the new cross section?
Yes.
Okay. Because there is not enough brick to redo the bedding underneath the bricks and then replace them, we believe that we can salvage, that is, pull up, store, reconstruct the road base, and then put back approximately 60% based on our initial estimates. So what we're proposing is, you see a 5-lane stretch, the 3 drive lanes, the center turn lane, and then the north and south lane would be returned as brick. The outside 2 lanes, 4 feet for bike and 8 feet for parallel parking, would be some form of concrete, and we've not determined that, and we're certainly open to discussion, but some form of a concrete, be it colored or the standard grayish white. You can see the upper left is a cross-sectional view of the 5-lane wide brick. And then to the right is what would be proposed, where we have 3 travel lanes, and then the bike and parking on each side would be concrete. Currently, the roadway project is limited from the curb across to the curb. And then we're also considering some kind of accent in each intersection, probably a poured concrete banded with concrete sidewalks. The intersections could be an accent color. Again, we're just depicting this as an accent. We've not gotten to any color selections, and we're open to that. And so that's why we've come to your commission to begin the conversation. Mark Adis is here as well. He's the city engineer. With that, I'll open it for questions and conversation. If you'd like, I can leave the screen on if that's helpful.
I mean, so the bricks that you're going to pull away and store, is the intent to somehow reuse them
Yes.
in the future design? Because I think with the last set of changes that took place on Saginaw, the bricks were pulled up, but they were never put back down, even though we were assured um, from the road commission, or I think it was the street division from the city of Flint, that they were going to put the bricks back, but it just never happened. They said they were going to do it after the crim. And I don't even know if those bricks are still available, if they were lost, or we never got another status update. So, I mean, I think there's still a concern on our end that this could possibly happen, that the bricks get lost, or
No, the intent is to take all of them out and then stage and stockpile the ones that are salvageable, and then the damaged and broken ones would be landfill. But we would keep in return what we estimate about 60% would fill the three of the 5 lanes.
Can you talk about the portion of Saginaw Street that was most recently had the bricks removed and is now like an orange colored cement that is in front of the dorms at U of M and the pavilion?
Oh, at the north end.
Yeah, what's happening? Is that going to be part of your project, or is that not going to be touched?
That will be part of this project. This is Mark Davis.
Okay, so what would that end up looking like, that area?
We will try to replace those with the regular bricks the same way, the 3 middle lanes, and then outer lanes would be.
This same appearance.
Okay, and the same thing with the patch job that is in front of Huntington Bank and Churchill's? There's a big, huge cement area.
Correct.
And then the drawing of where the cross street is, where you showed First Street, is that just an example of one of the cross streets where they would all be the same once you decide on a design?
That would be, yes, for economies, they would all be the same in uniformity. Potentially a different color than the historic bricks, but yes, each intersection would be the same.
Okay.
They would be banded by a typical masonry poured sidewalk for the crosswalks.
Mm-hmm.
Is that larger?
Yeah.
Okay. So the gray crosswalks would be typical concrete, and whether this is accented or is asphalt or brick has not been determined, and we're open to suggestions, but they would all be the same. Each intersection would be the same.
Gotcha.
Okay. How far would this project tear into the side streets at all? Like a few feet or a couple 100 feet, or?
No, 10 to 20
all?
feet, just
Gotcha.
enough to get these crosswalks in. So as the radius comes around the intersection, not more than 10 or 20 feet beyond the end of the radius, the end of the curb return.
Because there are some exposed areas. I think,
Yeah, there are some areas that
is it
may have
Second
may have
along
bricks or-
Dryden
Yep.
to the Capitol Theater, where you can see brick on that street? It's a side street. So I was just wondering how far you'd be digging into the side streets. You might find more brick
Potentially, yes, and whether it would
buried
be
underneath.
usable or not. The side streets would be asphalt from the crosswalk to the east and west. But the bricks could potentially, if they were found and they were salvageable, they could potentially be put in one of the 3 trunk line lanes.
Okay.
Is there some inventory of bricks currently? I know we've gotten conflicting information over the years that maybe there's some pile somewhere.
This is Mark Davis. The streets do have a few of the bricks for the Saginaw Street. There's probably about 8 different types of bricks in the city, if not more. There's 3 different, as far as I know, there's 3 different types of bricks on Saginaw Street itself. But we have bricks from other areas that we've run into them. We use those.
I think it was the patch in front of Churchill's that they said they were putting them back, and then they said they lost the pile. And then a couple of years ago, they found it. They found the pile somewhere and
I
said they
don't
had
know
them.
exactly how many they've got. I know there's some up at the thing every time we have a project or we have a contractor who goes through a different area where it was asphalt with bricks underneath it. We try to salvage those as much as possible.
Okay. What is the timeline? When would you anticipate this project happening?
Spring of 2022, so a little over a year from now.
Okay. So, and you're aware you'd have to come before us with an application, like before any work is done, and that our certificates are good for a year. So if it was going to be spring of 2022, maybe like winter, January, February, whatever, so that you're ready to go.
Yes, I guess for our clarification, can you explain what your approval process includes or entails, or I guess to what authority or permitting authority you have? Because we need all of our
the bricks
permits lined
are
up.
sure. The Saginaw Street bricks are a historic district. So
Under what
none of them are
designation?
supposed, yeah,
Federal designation?
I'm sorry, what?
Under a federal designation?
No, local historic district.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, pursuant to the Historic District Act, I think.
Okay.
I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, they can't be touched until they've gone through us and you have a certificate of appropriateness.
Okay.
Just, yeah, making sure we're all on the same page, because that is our concern, that, we've heard the bricks are going to be all torn up and removed and not put back.
That's not the intent.
Now, my goal from the beginning has always been to replace as many lanes as we could. But if you go out there, you'll see a lot of bricks that are busted in half and cracked and damaged beyond. The other goal is to lock the bricks in better so they don't get damaged in the future. Right now, they're sort of floating, so they dip, you have bumps and everything else, which destroys the bricks real quick.
Yeah, we're intending to construct a concrete cradle or bathtub, for lack of a better term, for them to sit in. And then there will be drainage, but they won't be able to move around as much as they are now. So hopefully
Okay.
reducing the damage.
Good, that sounds good. So we just have an application form that gets filled out, and then
Okay.
you submit any pictures, like in diagrams, like
Mhm.
just exactly what you have here.
Okay.
And then have a representative maybe attend the meeting to answer questions. Literally, it's just like what we're doing right now.
Okay.
But you'd be a formal agenda item,
Yeah,
And we
should plan to do that as soon as possible, even if it requires a recertification or an extension of that, so that we're comfortable. This is federally funded, so there's lots of steps that we have to follow, and we don't
Right.
want to get to the federal obligation point and then not have and not have all of our approvals in place, not have all of our entitlements in place. So,
Sure. And our certificates are good for 1 year. The work can be
Okay.
done for a year. So if more than a year goes by, then you'd have to come back.
understand. Okay.
I guess one thing when you are coming to speak with us with more detail, when you read through the Secretary of Interior standards, I think this, like any other project, they'll talk about replacing like with like. If there's a material on a house or historic structure that is too far gone and can't be salvaged, the next best thing is to replace like with like. So I think you'd want to be prepared to at least explain that you've considered doing it all in brick, and what that means, whether it's financial or there's
Clearly
just
financial. Yes.
But I think you'd want to be prepared to
Yeah,
explain
we
why
could
you're not replacing
substantiate that.
like
Yeah.
with like.
More
Yeah,
in
we
detail,
would
yeah,
substantiate that
that
argument,
you
but it's
looked
clearly,
into
yeah.
replicating the brick and what it would cost and where the company is and how far away it is and what time it would take. And
Right.
'cause
Unfortunately,
there's a list of priorities where you should, number one, our top agenda is fix what's there, use what you have and fix it. Then number two, like Commissioner Hurley was saying, replace it with a similar material. And then number three, if that's not possible or not an option, then using a new, different material.
I have researched it and the cost is astronomical and you can only buy used bricks. Paving bricks are high temperature bricks. They basically turn the glass. As far as I know, there's no company making them right now. And to buy used bricks, they're about $6 to $10 a brick, which puts us out of our budget real quick. That's why we're trying to work with what we have there, try to get as many in as possible.
Okay. And then Bill Vandercook can help you with getting on the agenda and filling out the application. He'll let you know what all we need, make sure everything's good to go for the meeting whenever you guys want to be on the agenda.
Do you have any comments or thoughts or opinions as far as what we're presenting? Is this what was expected, anticipated?
I had heard about the pedestrian walkway, the crosswalks, just for safety, so people aren't, tripping and getting their heels caught in between the brick holes and whatever, that there's just a safe, flat path for crossing roads. I had heard about that.
Mhm.
But I think this is the first we're hearing about that only 3 lanes would be laid back down. And so 2 lanes would be cement. And so I think we're just kind of processing
Okay.
that tidbit of new information.
And yeah, I mean, I thought we were just getting an update on what was going on with the missing bricks. So I didn't know we were getting an update of redoing the hole.
Okay.
Right, because we had just heard rumors that it was happening and we're concerned that nobody had talked to us when
Yeah, I do
technically nobody's
apologize.
supposed to touch anything without talking to us.
I apologize. We've been the extent of what we're doing has been changing because of the different administrations, and we were heading one direction. Now we've had to switch, so there's been some delay getting to you guys. We were hoping to get to you last year, and we just didn't have enough to give you guys even a
Right.
glimpse of what could be possible. So.
Right. And I know, I mean, those 2 patch jobs happened like 6 or 7 years ago. And we were being told, oh yeah, they're going to be replaced. It's going to be fixed. Don't worry. And then here we are, 6 or 7 years later and it hasn't happened.
We don't want to do that.
And now that we know, I mean, this is what we suspected, that because of the bigger project, that's why those little patch jobs weren't being replaced, because it'll just be wrapped into the bigger project. But we just needed to hear it from the people who are actually doing it.
They didn't really do a great job on them either.
No, they did not.
Apologize.
And they
There's
didn't
ways
come
of-
before us either. So those are illegal patches right now.
Yeah, and hopefully we can resolve that with this to make it look a lot nicer, make it better looking. There's a possibility, I don't know if the price will be there to actually have stamps made for the parts that are concrete with and stained, so they will blend in better with it. Not like the patch that's out there now, that's not professionally done, so I apologize. It looked like a Home Depot bottle of stain that they put in there, so.
So when you come to us, is the plan, is that pretty much what it's going to be, or is it still sort of open for some tweaks and changes? Like, I mean, I've heard different things about, putting a boulevard in or making it more intimate and pedestrian friendly. I've heard, putting the parking back to angled rather than you know, end
We,
to end.
we've had many discussions over the last year and a half, and this is pretty much what we've refined it down to. We just had a conversation with the administration earlier this afternoon. With the exception of some potential sidewalk replacement areas, the geometry will remain as presented, and the focus will be from curb to curb, returning the 5 lanes, the angled parking and the other discussions, in the interior crosswalks, interior block, mid-block crosswalks, those seem to be off the table at this point. So mainly driven by dollars. Sidewalk replacement is still being discussed, but it won't change the geometry. That would be more cosmetic. It's structural and cosmetic, but not geometry. So the colors in the intersections are still open for interpretation. But beyond that, unless something changes in the next few weeks, I would anticipate we would be returning with this same set of criteria for our application.
All right, well, thank you for coming and
Okay.
answering some of our questions. Very
good. Well, thank you for hosting us.
We've
and
been wondering.
Thank you for hosting and pushing us up the agenda. Both are appreciated, and we will be back within the next few months to formalize your certification.
Yeah, and I do apologize that we didn't get to you guys sooner. I know there was a lot of missed thing, but we were basically changing plans almost every month. So, I'll come to you with one thing and find out we couldn't do it. So.
All right, well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next item on the agenda is certificates of appropriateness, notice to proceed. First item is 109 West 5th Avenue. Applicant is Genesee County Land Bank. Is anyone here to present on that item?
I'm Michael Freeman. I'm the Executive Director of the Genesee County Land Bank Authority. And with me is Moses Timlin, who's from our planning department at the Land Bank. And I'll let Moses introduce himself.
Hello, hi, thank you everyone. As Michael said, my name is Moses Timlin. I'm a neighborhood strategy coordinator at the Genesee County Land Bank. I've been helping with a planning initiative for the Carriagetown neighborhood and residential areas over by Kettering University in Hurley for about the last 2 years. And tonight we're going to be asking for appropriateness for demolitions, but as part of a broader blight elimination strategy for the target area. So thank you.
So just to start, and this will cover basically all of the individual requests that we have. I started at the Land Bank in May of this year, or rather last year. And so this was a conversation I had been part of before my employment, even at the Land Bank, about what is the Land Bank going to do with these remaining homes that they have in the historic district that are in significant disrepair. There were 7 properties that the neighborhood association had identified as needed to be some resolution needed to happen with these properties. And at first it was initially just a request to the Land Bank that they find the funds to eventually demolish these properties. What the Land Bank felt was appropriate was not to go at this as, we're going to go out and just ask for demolition on these properties, but we wanted the perspective of all of these properties should be looked at as renovation candidates. And that, can we restore the properties should be the way that we looked at it, as opposed to automatically assuming that these would all be demolished. Initially, we had one of our Land Bank staff members go in and do an evaluation. The results of that evaluation, I thought, were not sufficient to justify, either renovation or demolition. They were very basic assessments of the properties that I felt would not be appropriate. So we went ahead and brought in construction professionals, individuals who are experienced with the renovation of historic structures, as well, members of the neighborhood association. And then we also had Reconstruction go through and do analysis on these properties. Personally, it was really my goal to try and save all of these properties, because I think that the depopulation of the historic district is not appropriate, and that we should be working to preserve what we have. Once we started doing this in-depth analysis of the individual properties that were brought to us by the neighborhood association, we actually found that there were properties that were salvageable, that had decent foundations. They had enough that we could work with. There were also properties that once we got in, some of them were dangerous to the point of not even being able to do as much analysis as we wanted. One property that we have on 4th Avenue that we'll be discussing is basically cantilevered over a hole where the foundation used to be, with one metal support under it. And really at any point that property or that structure could just fall into the hole. So we really did look at this from the perspective of how many of these can we save realistically, and what could we, and what is it going to take? We felt it was going to take a lot of subsidy, as we've seen with other renovations that we've done with the neighborhood stabilization program and other resources. One of the problems is once you start using the federal funds, you run into a lot of additional requirements, everywhere from bonding requirements with construction professionals all the way to lead abatement that basically requires you to strip every single historic element from the property in order to do the renovation. So we knew that in order to do these properties appropriately, that we would have to find non-federal subsidies. Joe Martin is actually has introduced himself at the beginning, who was with Uptown. And I don't want to speak for Uptown necessarily, but this activity that we were going through with working with the neighborhood, the planning work that Moses was doing, our analysis of these properties, Uptown working with the Mott Foundation actually identified non-federal grant dollars that could be used as the subsidy, which would be required to do the renovations. Our goal in the construction on the construction side of what we plan on doing with the preservation of houses will be to preserve as much as we possibly can, to not disturb things that we could technically still use and not have to just scrap because they're telling us that we have to do, full lead remediation and stripping of property. So, I guess for me and personally, and some of you know me, I am very genuine when I say I wanted to save every single one of these properties. However, there were properties that I looked fine from the street and I always assumed were fine. But once we went in, found that half of the house was basically gone. The shell was just there and half the foundation basically was buckling in. So the only properties that we've brought before you today are ones that I actually felt comfortable that, these properties really are beyond all means that we have at our disposal, and likely any member of the community who would be interested in doing a renovation on these properties. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Moses, who, if he could screen share, actually has put together a PowerPoint presentation for you that's going to talk about not just what we intend to do with our demolition program, but also what we would like to do as far as our renovation and restoration efforts in Carriagetown.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michael. I also sent this to Bill, if he was able to forward to everyone before the meeting, just so that you can preview it and go through it as you like. I think Michael did a really good job of prepping and setting the context for this work. Again, this is a 2-year process. So I know it's a lot of paperwork we sent over to everyone with photos and surveys and letters of support. And I hope it really just reaffirms that this has been a very extensive process on our end. So because Michael did such a good job of explaining a lot of our process, I'm just gonna really flip through quickly to get to the photos so I can provide a little bit of a snapshot so that we can better contextualize more of the properties. Quick outline, how do we get here? What are the goals, the strategies? Because for the blight elimination strategy, we're not just looking at demolition, but also rehab. And then I'll skip the question and answers and we can go back to the general discussion. So in 2019, we met with the Neighborhood Association and their blight committee. And as Michael was sharing, we wanted to have a broader conversation with the neighborhood about what are their blight priorities, and specifically the land bank properties were a point of concern that needed to be addressed. We conducted a dangerous inspection surveys. We did 2 different walkthroughs this past summer. We did one with our land bank staff and 3 actually builders and contractors from Carriagetown who restored their properties. And we did a second walkthrough with URC and Reconstruction. So in total, we walked through with 3 builders and 2 contractors. And what we're showing to you is a game plan, if you will, that we did in tandem with their recommendations. So this is a group effort that you're seeing. What is the point of all this presentation and why we're applying tonight? We really want to address the blighted conditions of 7 land bank properties. Our overall goal is to increase that, improve the housing stock of Carriagetown, and then maximizing our limited resources and partnerships. So looking at the strategies, this is a snapshot of the properties that we are actually pursuing to rehab. This is the first property on Sanford Place. It's actually within a cottage court just off of University. And if you can, as you can see, a lot of the properties, and when we flip through the photos, there's a lot of trash and debris that needs to be cleared from the property. But when we looked at it structurally, we felt as though out of all our properties, this is one of the more low-hanging fruit. Same thing with 104 Sanford Place. It's just on a diagonal from 103. Great exterior. As you can see, you don't see any visible foundation issues. We see this as a little bit of a head start that when we received the property, it was already stripped down to the studs in many of the rooms. But again, with a lot of clearance, there's a lot of vermiculite we had to clear from this property. And then this is 506 Lion Street. This is a property that we want to pursue a rehab effort with. It is going to be a little bit of a heavy lift. There's very extensive water damage that has occurred to the property. There's holes missing in floorboards. There's going to be a lot of needing to reassure some really basic framing of the interior structure. So now looking at what we're applying for tonight, the requested demolition, I'm going to start with 427 West 2nd Avenue. One of the biggest issues with this property is there's actually a gaping 5-foot hole in the roof. I'm also going to be paraphrasing a lot of the notes that our contractor from Lurvy actually went ahead and wrote up for us, so that can be referenced as well. The back of the house, the attachment that was added to it is already becoming unattached and needs to be addressed immediately. There's water damage coming down from the 2nd floor, obviously onto the 1st floor, and there's very extensive foundation issues where the property leans to the left and we have bricks crumbling. This is the property on 4th Avenue that Michael was referring to, 434 West 4th Avenue. As you can see in the back, an addition has already been removed and there's foundation that's missing that was conjoined with that addition. As you can see with my cursor on this left side of the building, there's actually fire damage from the left side elevation that goes into the interior of the 2nd floor rear bedroom. And it's only being upheld currently, the back addition, by one steel stilt. This is another property that we're applying for on Lion Street. So it needs a lot of clear out. The front attachment is starting to come undone. Not as bad as some of our other properties that we've already seen, but what's most concerning is that the walls are breaking in the basement, and there's soil erosion that's beginning to fill the basement. So the foundation is completely compromised on the left side of the property, and we do need to address it pretty immediately. And this is 109 Fifth Avenue. It unfortunately was a victim of arson, and it burned to the foundation. As you can see, its remains are still completely exposed, so it really does pose as a health and safety risk. And this is a little small green lot that we did right next to it. Unfortunately, again, it was a victim of arson. So thinking about this whole neighborhood strategy, we approach this in collaboration with the neighborhood association and URC and Habitat as a strategy to really look at how to help improve the overall housing stock of the neighborhood. So looking at our grant deadlines, we're really hoping to have approval by the end of March if it's deemed appropriate. Our demolitions will plan to be done by July to work with our grant deadlines. The rehabs of September this year, and then doing facade repairs in partnership with Habitat for Humanity by end of the year. And we want to help support what you see here. This is 4th Avenue in Carriagetown, and in the last year, you saw private homes be bought and repaired. You also see land bank property that was repaired. I'm sure you guys have seen this application from Brett, who is also toured one of our properties. But this is a snapshot of what we want to see throughout the neighborhood. And we believe that this strategy is helping aid more of the housing stock going in this direction. And then this is just an excerpt from the Neighborhood Association's support letter. I just want to read the last part. This project would be a major step forward in making Carriagetown whole again. Our goal is to be blight-free and to have every home occupied and cared for like those who have held on through prosperous and turbulent times. Thank you. And so I hope that wasn't too fast, but I just wanted to give a snapshot since Michael did a very good job of laying the context for me.
Yeah. You know, and initially as well, we were looking at, wanted to do 4 houses total. And so 2nd Avenue was kind of my dream of getting, that one restored. But really the inside of it, I mean, it was terrifying to walk in, and literally it's half the house is basically gone from the interior, and you would have to completely rebuild half of the house just to make it whole again. So that house is further gone than we had all anticipated. So with that, potential 4th house, what I'm hoping is that in our next round of foreclosure, there were actually a couple great houses in Carriagetown that were going to go into foreclosure. However, due to the pandemic, the treasurer did not do the foreclosures. And so we basically were, we're in a waiting, or we're in waiting mode. But I anticipate if we get that new round of foreclosures in March, that we could potentially get that 5th or 4th great property in Carriagetown that we can see restored.
Okay, so do all the commissioners have the letter from Reconstruction regarding the 4 different addresses? And
Yes.
all commissioners have the letter from Carriagetown Historic Neighborhood Association?
Yes.
Yes.
And then if the city attorney could read any additional letter, and I'm assuming it's a blanket letter, just like these other 2 are, that deal with that mention all the addresses. And I'm hoping that we can just sort of read them or discuss them once instead of 4 times when we call for each of the votes.
Madam Chair, I think that would be entirely appropriate. I have 3 additional letters that all seem to address each property we're discussing now.
Okay.
And I'm in the process of combining all of these letters. So we've got one PDF version for all of the commissioners in addition to planning staff. So whenever you're ready, I can read those unless you want to waive them, and we can just add the letters to the record.
If you want to read them, I think that would be helpful since we don't have copies like before we're making the decision.
Absolutely. And should we do that now?
Sure.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
We have also public speakers, it looks like. So when do we want to do that?
I guess, Madam Chair, I'll defer to you whenever you're ready to start the public hearing portion of this.
Certainly. Well, we're discussing 109 West Fifth Avenue right now. So
Yeah.
I would think perhaps once there's a motion and support, then we open it up for discussion. And then if anyone is here to discuss on that address,
Are we doing them one at a time or all in one package?
I think we should need to do each address one at a time because they're in different conditions, different structures, different addresses. So
And is there actually an application? One, 4 applications?
there are 4 separate applications.
Okay.
So since we acknowledge that we have the Lurvy letter and the Carriagetown letter, and then if we could just hear the other 3 letters, and then if somebody wants to make a motion on 109, the one that's up right now, then we can open up the floor for any discussion on that particular address.
And discussion would include the speakers who are on the line. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay. So do letters now,
sure.
and then we'll open it up for public speakers after the motion. Okay,
I think that makes sense.
sure. So this is a letter from Nancy Sinclair. This is dated January 7th, 2021. My name is Nancy Sinclair. I am writing today to enter into the discussion around the Genesee County Land Bank's applications for the demolition of 4 properties here in the Carriagetown neighborhood where I reside. As a former member and chairperson of the Flint Historic District Commission, I am also a builder and a restorer of an historic property in Carriagetown, as well as a participant in many other property restorations by the Neighborhood Association and by my neighbors. As a member of the Carriagetown Historic Neighborhood Association, we have worked closely with the Genesee County Land Bank over the past year to come to a plan for the properties here in Carriagetown that are owned by them. I would like to say, on their behalf and all the interested parties who have given input to the homes being proposed tonight for demolition, that we are in support of your agreement for their notices to proceed being issued. We feel that there were fair and thorough inspections and evaluations done, and that we are in support and agreement of the conclusions that were reached for the need of these demolitions to take place. We feel that in the interest of the improvement of this historic district, these are necessary. We commend the Land Bank for its forward thinking to address these blighted structures deemed unrehabilitatable, and also for their plans to address those they own that will be restored. Thank you for your service to our historic districts. Sincerely, Nancy Sinclair. And then we have one from John Mason. Hi, I hope all is well with you. Just wanted to reach out to say I am in full support of Moses Timlin's plan. I personally walked all the properties and can say that structurally some of them are past being able to be fixed. I think this is a good plan to fix what can be rehabbed and take down homes which are literally falling in on themselves. Thanks, John. And the last one is from Jack Stock of Kettering. Dear Mr. Vandercook, I hope this finds you well. I am writing on behalf of Kettering University in support of the Genesee County Land Bank's HDC application and their efforts to receive support from the City of Flint for proposed demolitions in the Carriagetown Historic District. The demolitions are part of a larger effort by the GCLBA to partner with Uptown Reinvestment Corporation to undertake historic housing rehabilitation activities in the same neighborhood. Kettering University has been a partner organization in the Community Development Working Group, providing active support and implementation for neighborhood development efforts in the Carriagetown neighborhood. The GCLBA and URC are partnering on these redevelopment initiatives, to mitigate neighborhood blight, preserve the historic housing stock of the historic district, and increase the quality of life for neighborhood residents. GCLBA and URC have received funding to initially complete 3 for-sale single-family historic renovations, with the ability to start in spring of 2021, should the applications by Flint Historic Commission be approved. Upon sale of these historic houses, additional properties will be chosen for historic renovation in the neighborhood. Kettering's commitment to restoration is beyond reproach. Our $3 million investment in historic Atwood Stadium is just one example of our ongoing efforts. Kettering University has had the opportunity to see the GCLBA plan, knows of the thorough vetting GCLBA has done in the community, and is aware of the partnership proposed with Uptown Reinvestment Corporation. All of these are things we enthusiastically support and fit well within Kettering University's commitment to community vitality in Greater Flint. Please let me know if there is more I can provide in support of the application. Thank you for all you do for the City of Flint. Sincerely, Jack Stock, Director of External Relations, University Advancement and External Relations. And again, he's from Kettering University. So I believe that encompasses all of the communications regarding these applications.
Okay. So we've gotten a good overview on the whole project, but now if we could just kind of hone in on 109 West 5th Avenue. That's the one that we've called on the agenda right now. And I believe that's the burnout, right? So all that's left is a foundation and a hole in the ground.
Correct.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
can I ask a question real quick?
Yep.
I guess I'm not sure if this would be for Michael or Moses. What are the plans for the properties after demo? That's one of my only really concern is once we demo these properties, we had issues earlier last year with the neighborhood coming because of what was going to be constructed on other properties, not land bank properties, and really trying to fight against that. And I mean, is there a plan of what's going to happen with these properties after the structure is on?
So I'll answer that. That's been, part of Moses's job is working on coordinating redevelopment plans for the neighborhood and neighborhoods in the DTM area where they're actually figuring out what do the neighborhoods want to see and what do residents want to see in the neighborhood. So he is our conduit into the neighborhood. He's designed typologies for housing units, not necessarily always single family, but looking at how can we do a blend of things which meet current market conditions. Based on that work right now, we foresee future development and partnerships in not only Carriagetown, but in other areas of DTM that will look at doing infill housing. So that we actually have or maintain density, which is historically appropriate to the neighborhood. And so these lots will then, be potential infill lots. If a house, I know that the house like directly next door to the house on 2nd Avenue has zero property. There is not a lot, they have no yard. So if that were a renovation candidate, it would be very challenging to find someone to purchase that property because, what I saw previously, what was directly to the south of it would have been a great lot, but that was actually conveyed to the property owner behind them. So I think we want to have, and this would be up to the neighborhood, working with the Historic District Commission, working with the developer to look at what is the appropriate size lot so everything's not just a green field. So our future desire is to look at doing infill housing. As some of you may know, when I worked at Local Initiative Support Corporation, we tried to do an infill housing program in Carriagetown. Unfortunately, it turned out to be on the Native American burial ground. So this is an area that we're obviously going to avoid, but there are other areas within Carriagetown that we feel could be great candidates for infill housing.
All right, thank you, Michael. I just want to say, I mean, thank you for bringing this up and coming through. I did a ride around the neighborhood today, and I live in Carriagetown, and looked at all these structures, some I know very well. And so that was my only concern on all these structures. So I would move on the first one, put a motion out there to approve demolition.
Okay, we have a motion for 109 West Fifth Avenue to be approved for demolition as presented. Is there support?
Support.
We have support by Commissioner Hurley. Is there any discussion? Is there anyone that would like to say anything regarding 109 West Fifth Avenue?
No.
Joe Martin, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Joe Martin from Uptown Reinvestment Corporation. I'll keep this brief, as it's been, talked about our partnership, about the entirety of the scope there on the renovation. So we're just really excited to have the opportunity to partner with the land bank on the renovations of the new homes. We were quite successful and lucky to track down some non-federal dollars to move forward with the renovations of those homes, which you will see before the commission here probably in the next couple months. Right now we're in the throes of doing the initial due diligence, the asbestos surveys, and so forth on the renovations, and then starting with the field measurements as well. And so you'll see the request here in partnership with the land bank here in the next couple months. But I'll just speak on behalf of this property and know that it carries for the other ones that, we think at Uptown Reinvestment Corporation that the combined effort of removing the vacant, unsafe structures along with the historic renovation of the structures that we can save is going to be extremely helpful to move the neighborhood forward. URC is very grateful that the land bank thought of us as a partner. We are really interested in supporting the neighborhood, learning from the neighborhood, engaging with them in this effort to help move it forward. And again, thank you for the time and opportunity to speak tonight in support of this demolition, and then look forward to talking with the commission here in a couple months on the larger project.
Thank you. Any further discussion on 109 West Fifth Avenue? This one is probably the most straightforward.
Oh, can you hear me?
Demo. Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Cade Surface. I'm the Vice President of the Carriagetown Historic Neighborhood Association, and obviously a resident of the neighborhood. I live within a quarter mile of all of the properties being discussed. And I would just like to, first of all, just applaud Moses and Michael and the entire land bank team for really the ongoing engagement that they did. This wasn't a decision that came easily. There was a lot of process that went into a lot of neighbors being okay with just the concept of demolishing anything in the neighborhood. So just know that this wasn't something that was just pushed through. It's been in discussion for years. I've lived in the neighborhood for over a decade at this point. I've owned my house for a decade. And truthfully, I've walked by these buildings almost on a daily basis, and it's always been my sad assumption that these were either going to be demolished, burned down, or just fall down out of neglect. So the fact that they have come up with a solution that allows a handful of them to be saved, while a few that are just in really terrible shape are going to be removed, I just think is very exciting. I have an architecture and planning background, and I feel very strongly about the preservation both of historic architecture and of traditional density and urban fabric. And so while it is sad to see some of that go, I do feel confident that that the land bank also has a respect for that same value and will hopefully replace the properties that are demolished with something that is still appropriate and contributes to the sense of urbanity that we all appreciate in Carriagetown. So if it isn't clear, I just want to make sure you know that I fully support the demolition plan and the renovation plans that were presented this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, this is Kelly Thompson. I didn't catch the last speaker's name. If I could if he's still on the line or if someone took his name. I just want to note it for the
Sure,
record.
Yeah, my name is Cade Surface. That's spelled C-A-D-E. Surface, S-U-R-F-A-C-E.
And are you a resident in Carriage Town?
I sure am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any discussion, comments, questions on 109 West Fifth Avenue?
No.
Okay, hearing none, I believe we have a motion and support. If we could have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
That was a yes, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Scapani?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
And Madam Chair?
Yes. Okay, so motion passes. The notice to proceed on the demolition is granted. The certificate, I can come in tomorrow. I don't know if Bill will be there tomorrow to write these up or if they already exist. But I can come in tomorrow and sign it.
Can I get back to you on that, Madam Chair?
Sure.
Okay.
Usually we hand them out at the meeting, but since we're doing this virtually, it's kind of been a next day thing, where I'll come in and sign it and then you guys can pick them up after they've been signed at City Hall.
Either way, to the applicant, I'm sure Bill will get that to you or contact you once it is signed. So we'll just work on that behind the scenes and then Bill will get with you on it.
Okay. And next item on the agenda is 510 Lion Street, the applicant being the Genesee County Land Bank. Is anyone here to specifically talk about or answer any questions on this address?
Yeah, I can answer any questions on that address.
I want to just take a minute to look through the photos that were submitted. Looks like this one has some challenges to the foundation. I can see there's a photo from the basement where you can see daylight and outdoors kind of just coming in and on multiple different elevations.
Correct.
So the foundation's open.
Yeah, like exterior survey, like, I didn't anticipate that property was going to be really problematic. But then once we saw what was taking place in the basement, I mean, it's literally earth is just encroaching. And in particular, there are some issues because of the driveway that goes into the DDA warehouse. And so all that water just runs off right into the house. And it's been doing that for probably 50 years.
And how long has it been vacant, do you know?
Probably.
How long have you guys had it?
Yeah, it's probably been about 15, 17 years. And it's been, they call it the cat house because many cats have lived and died in that house.
And I heard Joe Martin was going to take all the cats there.
Yeah.
Hey Joe, I'll absolutely do that if you can pay for the cat food. So I heard it's a pretty big bill. So.
Let's see here. Okay, and then you guys did your own inspection as well. Looks like we have a form here.
Yeah.
Yes, the dangerous building inspection. I'm sorry.
Okay. So it says there's windows and doors that are broken, missing, and damaged. Foundation basement walls have cracks, holes, and bulges. The roofing is rotting. Siding is missing.
Yeah, I mean, but I didn't feel that was, we did our own analysis, but I needed independent. That to me was an analysis of any structure that he would be looking at in the city of Flint. And so those things are forgivable. I wanted to know what was the unforgivable within these houses and what things would just be too prohibitive. And when you look at the Lion Street properties with those two, the yellow house comes out just a little bit ahead. And so I guess if we're going to, they were yelling at me about Yellow House, the 510, or is it 512?
506.
Oh, 506.
Mhm.
Yeah, they weren't too happy, but I know that, I felt that given the condition of the property, we had to save that house.
Mhm.
So the letter from Reconstruction indicates that 510 Lion Street foundation is cracked and crumbling, basement walls have broken, leading to soil erosion, filling in part of the basement. Does anybody else have any questions?
I make a motion that we approve it.
Okay, is there support?
I'll support Heather.
Okay, we have a motion and support to approve the demolition of 510 Lion Street. Is there any further discussion?
Did we want to open it up for public comment again, or was that the first time was for all of them?
Yes, no, this would be the time if anybody specifically wants to talk about 510 Lion Street. Okay, hearing none, if we could have a roll call vote.
Hi, this is Nick Cadbury, president of the Neighborhood Association. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I'm just going to speak regarding all the properties that you have on your agenda. I'd really like to commend the land bank with what they've done to kind of redeem themselves in the community with the relationships we've had in the past with them. And the conditions of the properties. So I'd really like to thank specifically Moses. He's been with the land bank, and he's been directly involved with the neighborhood association for a couple of years now. And I really appreciate all the work he's done to help move this project along and see it come to fruition, because the facts are simple. The houses have been there X amount of years with no life. They've been decaying every day, and something needs to happen to them. Because if something doesn't happen to them, then they're not going to be salvageable whatsoever. So that's all I have to say, and I will just continue listening. I do appreciate your consideration for the approval of the listed properties for demolition.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, just one more time. Could I get your last name, sir?
Yeah, I'll spell it. It's KEDO, V as in Victor, ARY.
Okay, I think we've met before. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any other discussion regarding 510 Lion Street? Hearing none, if we could have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Scapani?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright? Commissioner Wright? Casey, do we still have her?
I see her.
Is
Yeah,
she
I see
muted?
her. Nope.
Is she nodding her head?
She does not have camera on. I'm gonna try muting and unmuting.
Well, I think maybe she's going to try and call back in. We'll skip her for now. Madam Chair? For you-
Yes.
Okay. We do need her vote, so. I see she came back on.
It says she's muted.
I just muted her back to see if
Okay.
she can unmute herself again.
Okay.
And she was the one
Oh.
who seconded the motion, right?
Wait,
Yeah.
I did.
Okay, and so your vote for this item, Commissioner Wright?
Support for the
Okay.
demolition. Mhm.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, it's unanimous. So the motion carries. The notice to proceed is granted for demolition of 510 Lion Street. And same thing, Mr. Vandercook will get with you guys as soon as I have signed the order. The next item on the agenda is 434 West 4th Avenue. Take a moment to review those photos. Okay, so it looks like in these pictures, a portion of the second story is just open. There's just framing members. There are no interior or exterior walls. So like the second floor is open to the elements.
It is.
And some of the photos seem to indicate that the foundation is seen better
Not there.
days, to say the least.
Not there.
It's sagging to the left if you.
And non-existent in places, and yes. Okay. Was this structure not safe to go in?
We did go in that structure. The Second Avenue?
No, 4th Avenue.
Or 434
Oh,
West
I'm
4th?
sorry. I'm sorry. I thought I heard, I'm sorry.
I just
Yes,
don't see any interior pictures, so I didn't know if there was a reason why.
Yeah, we didn't go into because it is cantilevered. I mean, literally, there's one pole holding up the back of the house, so we couldn't have anybody go in there. They did do their visual assessment because there's 50% of the foundation is just gone. You could look down and see what was going on into the foundation, and so or rather wasn't happening with the foundation.
Have we lost Commissioner Scapani? Is he here?
yeah, I think we did.
It's a good catch.
Yeah, if we lost quorum, we can't go on again. So let me text him.
Oh,
Here he
he's
comes.
connecting.
Hello, sorry about that.
Hey. So the reason why there's no interior pictures is because the structure is not safe to
No.
enter.
No.
Yes, I'm back.
Are there any other discussion or questions regarding the address at 434 West 4th Avenue? Okay, is there a motion?
Hi, Heather. I would motion to approve.
Is there support for that motion?
Support.
We have motion and support to approve the application for demolition for the address located at 434 West 4th Avenue. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. If we could have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Scapani,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
and Madam Chair.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. The notice to proceed is granted. And again, the Historic District Commission will be contacting you with the order once it's signed. Moving on to the next agenda item, 427 West 2nd Avenue. Take a moment and review those photos. Okay, and so it looks like, is it the roof that's open on this address?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
The right side of the roof has, it's a huge gaping hole that has let water. I mean, it's been years of water damage going directly from the second floor and all the way down into the basement. So it's rotted on the right side of the house.
Okay. I see a bunch of plastic sheeting. It looks like there were attempts at tarping it at some point.
There were, yeah.
Heather, I move that we accept the application for demolition.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there support?
I support.
And any further discussion?
No.
The letter from Lurvy indicates that this property has experienced severe water damage. The roof exhibits gaping 5-foot hole in the exterior. The left side of the property has bricks that are eroded, causing the property to sag and lean to the left. The rear attachment has separated from the building and requires immediate attention. Okay. Any other discussion, statements, comments, questions? Hearing none, if we could have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Scapani,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
and Madam Chair.
Yes. And motion is granted. Notice to proceed will be issued in due course. So just expect a phone call from Mr. Vandercook probably tomorrow or the next day.
Great.
Wonderful.
And I think that is the end of your applications. You're certainly welcome to stay and listen to the rest of our meeting, but I understand if you don't want to do that.
Yeah, I do want to say though, as being the new director of the land bank, I'd like to be in a position where we don't come back to you guys. Or rather, if we come back to you, it's going to be for the renovations that we're doing. And so I'd like to really re-examine our practices related to not only stabilizing historic structures that are in our portfolio, but I would also look at being more creative about the way that we work with investors or people that, maybe they don't have the immediate dollars to fund 100% of the development, or, the 12-month timeline which they are given is really ridiculous, in particular with a historic structure. So I'd like to re-examine our procedures and what we do and the creativity to help preserve our housing stock and our historic buildings in Flint. And I'd like to develop a stronger working relationship with the Historic District Commission in the city of Flint. As I too am a historic preservationist and believe in what you're doing, I think that this is preventable. And unfortunately, I feel like tonight we're dealing with the sins of the past. and stabilizing structures. But I don't want to have to repeat this, so I'd just like to let you all know that.
Thank you. We appreciate knowing that we have a partner in the land bank that sees
Absolutely.
value in historic districts.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, moving along. Next item on the agenda is old business, Capitol Theater signage.
So I have a couple of updates. And Commission, again, this is Kelly Thompson. I have talked to Mike Ryder. I actually spoke to him today, and he has on the top of his to-do list is issuing violations for the Capitol Theater signage. So that fell off his radar, he said, over the holidays, but it's on his radar, and he intends to do that within the week. So he will be issuing a violation notice to Capitol Theater.
Okay,
So
and
that
will it just go to Uptown, or is it going to go to each business, each storefront?
Well,
I think there was 3 of them.
that I would propose to the entire commission. Mike has said historically he issues them to the landlord. So in this circumstance, that would be Uptown, right?
Yes.
And so that was his plan. If the commission feels otherwise, then I'm happy to instruct Mike. I think that the ordinance allows it either way. So I think the authority is there, whether we want to pursue the tenants or the landlord.
Sure.
Or both.
Okay. I mean, I think it makes sense to deal with the landlord because obviously they're the ones that have not put this requirement in their lease agreements, have not informed their tenants. And so if we want to prevent this from continuing to happen every time there's a new tenant, it's Uptown is the one that we need to fix what their approach is and what their understanding is of the process. So it makes sense to deal directly with them, and hopefully that fixes the entire problem.
I agree. I have a meeting at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning with Mike on a different issue, so I'll clarify that for him and let him know again that he's got the green light to move forward with that violation.
Okay, perfect.
Another thing that we had discussed at the previous meeting was sending a letter to Optic, the glasses store. I forget the name of it. I have it written down somewhere in my papers, but Article 1.
Yes.
To touch base with them on their sign. So I'm sorry that has fallen off my radar. So that I will get that to the commission. And
Sure.
I don't want to have, because of the Open Meetings Act, I don't want to have like deliberations or a group email going on with all the members. So I'll send it to the commission. And if you have comments, I would just ask that you reply only to me, or I'll BCC everyone so that we don't run into that issue.
Sure.
But I'm happy to take your feedback over email. And
Okay.
so we don't have to wait to the next meeting to get that out.
And I do have another question about the then the ticket that's going to be issued to Uptown, because my feeling is the reason why they haven't acted on it thus far is because the tenant and the landlord are one and the same as far as Eberson and who the letter has been sent to, with, requiring a signature, and it's been the same person that signed, and we've gotten nowhere. So if that person is the person that receives this ticket, I have a feeling it's just going to end up in the garbage again.
Well, the difference between the correspondence we've sent previously and what would be issued to them within the next week is that the violation won't just go away like the letter will. This is something that will be entered into the district court system. So if they just throw it in the garbage, then they'll be defaulted. So this will come with some bite, and the authority of the court behind it. So I share your concern with that. And I know that it has been the same person getting all of the correspondence. So hopefully it won't go through that person again, because I don't want them to default. I hope they come to the table and discuss it with us once they get this, but that's what would happen if it went in the garbage.
Okay. That makes me feel better as long as there's a consequence. I just don't, I'm just, it's been going on long enough.
And
The
under the
solution
city
is very
ordinance-
simple.
Right, exactly. And under the city ordinance, after it's defaulted, then we have authority to consider each day after that, each day that it's not corrected is a separate violation. So we have, you know, a lot more options open up after the first one.
Okay. That sounds good. Capital theater signage. We talked about the bricks. Updating historical documents.
I believe that has to do with the our log of historic district resources and updating the city ordinance. So there's a lot going on with our ordinances. The zoning code is being presented to council. We got a lot of marijuana related legislation going before council. So this is still something that Bill and I are looking at. We just have to get some other things off of our list first when it comes to ordinance amendments, but that's still on our radar for sure.
Just, yeah, updating our resources and our binders and all that.
Binders too, yes. That's being done for all of the commissions, ZBA, Planning Commission, and you as well.
Perfect. And then next item is historic preservation courses. Is that the training that I brought up at our last meeting?
Yes.
So I was just in contact with them recently, and I just suggested, since it's kind of slow right now, we haven't had too many agenda items. I mean, since this pandemic, half of our meetings have been canceled. But because we already have this day and time set aside on our calendars each month, I suggested just scheduling it on this day and time, maybe next month, either February or March, and hopefully there's no agenda items, and that will just be our meeting. Could be the training, and it would be virtual just like this. But does anybody have any other thoughts or input on that?
I'm okay with that, doing the training during our normal allocated time.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that works.
I'll
Sure.
discuss that
I'm
with Bill.
okay with it too.
Okay. And so that's Michigan Historic Preservation Network, and it's her name is Mallory, is the girl I've been emailing. But she's going to talk to the presenters, trying to secure presenters, you know, depending on the topic. And I think one of the topics was justifying our decisions. You know how we, like, if somebody appeals or wants to go to the state, or you know wants to, you know, come back and fight about our decision, being able to back it up and justify, you know, what our decisions are, and citing the Secretary of the Interior standards, things like that, just to make sure that it's sort of an open and closed case, you know, don't leave any wiggle room, like that our decision is backed up by evidence and facts.
I certainly see the benefit in that.
Definitely. Okay. So hopefully we can get that hammered down, and that would be our agenda either for February or March. But as soon as we know, we'll let you guys know, and that should be fun. The next item on the agenda is new business. Anybody have any new business?
I have a question real quick, Heather. I brought up a couple of months ago about that fence on Mason Street and the driveway that was illegally put up,
Yes,
and we've not discussed it since.
we haven't.
What was that address?
I'd have to go look.
You said it was
My
Mason
internet
Street?
went out. That's why I had to switch to my phone.
Yes.
So I don't
There were-
have that in front of me.
There were pictures, and I've seen it in person too. It's crazy. It's two driveways that are flush, right side by side. So there's no boundary or border in between the two of them. It's just, it looks like a double wide driveway, but it's really two separate driveways for two separate properties. And they put
Two
some
by four.
crazy fence down the middle of it that looks like it belongs on a farm somewhere. It doesn't look like fencing that should be in a residential neighborhood in a downtown city, and it's particularly in a historic district. Yeah, and that never came before us or got any approval.
I'll bring that up in my meeting with Mike tomorrow as well.
And I'll look up the address once. I don't know what happened with my internet, why it shut down.
You said it was Mason Street?
Yeah, it's Mason just before Second on the west side of the street. There's a house on one side and a vacant lot on the other side. It's I think the person that owns it and put up the fence is the vacant lot there on the corner of Mason and Second.
We probably talked about it maybe in October. I'm looking, so we didn't have a meeting in December. I'm looking at the November minutes that we just approved, and it's not in there either. So it must be before November that it was discussed, probably
Yeah, I
October,
think it was
September, whenever. Last meeting was before that. Yeah, because they should get a letter too that they're in violation and need to come before us.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other new business?
Hey, Heather, maybe we can combine this with the training program, but I think last month the Michigan Historic Preservation Tax Credits got signed back in. And they've been taken away, I don't know, 10 years or so ago. But I think effective last month, they're around again. So it'd be interesting to know more about that. It's geared towards privately owned properties in historic districts.
Okay.
So we should be educated about it, and then how do we get the word out as well? You know.
Sure. Okay. That sounds great. I'll bring it up next time I talk to Mallory.
Yeah, I think it was Senate Bill 54, I think was what it was called.
Okay. HBC credits. Okay. Any other new business? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Everybody wants to.
The race.
Support.
And is-
Support.
Support. Okay, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Righty, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
good time.
Happy
Thanks,
New Year.
everyone. Happy New Year.
You guys
All
have a
right.
nice night.
Happy New Year, everybody. See you guys
Yeah.
next time.
And
Okay.
Thanks.
Madam
Bye-bye.
Chair, I will email you about those signatures for the certificates of appropriateness. I think it looks like all planning staff is going to be remote tomorrow, so you don't have to plan on going to City Hall tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, and I'm free all day tomorrow, so whatever you need.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
Yep.